Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, has weighed in on the dispute between Airpeace and the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, that's the FCCPC. Mr. Keyamo criticized the FCCPC statement on Airpeace pricing methodology, calling it careless, and urging the agency to have consulted the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority instead of going public. The FCCPC had invited Airpeace to address allegations of exploitative fares and poor service delivery. However, Mr. Keyamo argued that the FCCPC should have contacted the NTAA, which is responsible for regulating airlines, to review the situation and provide facts. He also emphasized that the main challenge facing Nigerian airlines is not exploitation, but rather capacity limitations and foreign exchange volatility. He explained that most Nigerian airlines operate on ACMI contracts, which are priced in foreign currencies, making them susceptible to fluctuations in exchange rates. The minister also revealed that the government is working to improve conditions for Nigerian airlines by exposing them to international markets where they can access better terms for leasing aircraft. This, he believes, will impact ticket prices and operational costs. Joining us via Zoom for this conversation is the General Secretary, Aviation Roundtable, Olumide Nwayo. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Right, so let's begin with the minister's statement, calling the FCCPC statement on Airpeace pricing as careless. How would you react to that?
I do not agree with the minister, the honorable minister, so to say, and I think interdepartmental agencies of government have a way of communicating. I think the FCCPC and NCA have been communicating and coordinating on issues in the past, and even before the minister came in. So I don't think this time around is different. And I do not know why why is it only aviation that is reacting. The FCCPC said they had complaints from the consumers, consumers and customers in the economy overall on issues bordering on services provided by GTB in the bargaining industry, NTN in telecom, and Airpeace in aviation. But all over the media since then, it's only the aviation, the one in the aviation industry that we have seen parties coming in, supporting and going against the decision of the FCCPC. And that's worrisome. Because if we need to say that without the passengers, there are no airlines. And without the airlines, there are no airports or agencies or even the ministry itself. So if those taking care of the passengers are making some complaints, you will listen. And what FCCPC has said is an inquiry. They've not said they are guilty. It's an inquiry. You come and tell us, this is what we've got, this is what we've got. Come and tell us the side of the story. And heck, the whole inbound, and we are seeing responses from the industry. I am not so happy with what I'm seeing from the aviation industry. I'm not so happy at all.
But the FCCPC is saddled with the responsibility of addressing complaints from customers and consumers. And this has been brought by consumers as regards the airfares by Airpeace. And I'm sure it's not just Airpeace, there may be certain airlines as well, airline operators as well. So why is the minister saying that, why are you agreeing that the responsibility is not domiciled to the FCCPC, possibly that Nigerians might have gone to the NCAA to complain and nothing was done about it? And so they had to go a step further to the FCCPC.
I have not said they complained to NCA and NCA didn't about it. They have a right to go to the NCA and also have the right to go to the FCCPC. It's the consumer's right. They have a choice. And if the consumer said they prefer to deal with the FCCPC, so be it. So let's go and respond. Let me tell you, sometime in 2011, the NCA took British Airways and Virgin Atlantic and find out about $213 million for price fixing and collusion. At that same period, those airlines were fined about $300 million in the US. They both protested, against the fine and went and a judicial panel was set up by the same NCA, and NCA lost in that case. And they lost that case because they said the laws on pricing and marketing competition was not yet in Nigeria when NCA instituted that case. So as I tell you, we in that case at the time B and that's why I let you have that law was not in Nigeria, and NCA lost that case. FCCPC have been finding other agencies that have had complained. They just find WhatsApp, the Metal Group, and they have the Nigeria Data Protection Commission as their regulator. They find the Nigerian bottling company who has NAFDAC as their regulator, but they are going to find the airpiece. They've only asked for an inquiry, and we are saying they cannot interfere because it's not the same passenger that come and pay ticket fare. It's not the same passenger that pay passenger service at the airport that are going to complain about services being rendered.
So the thing is, it's not just airpiece. The FCCPC also had to summon other brands. While you say it's just an inquiry, I think the minister is also concerned about the image of the airline, especially at a time where they're trying to push these airlines out, our local carriers, to be able to access major terminals across the world. And in a press briefing by this airline, they've mentioned the ease of doing business, which was also acknowledged by the minister in this case. The ease of doing business, the cost of operation and all of that as possibly some of the reasons for this complaint by customers. How do we consider that in this situation? What are you hoping that the NCA should do to address and possibly reduce the cost on customers?
I have not said Airpeace is guilty. I feel they have a right to address the issues raised, and they also have a right to tell the world how they arrived at their pricing policy, which is within their right. Whatever problems we're going through in the aviation industry, they're also going through in other sectors of the economy. The aviation cannot be singled out. Companies are closing down. Companies are pulling out of Nigeria. The only airline we have lost so far since this problem, since this inflation and other issues started in Icon, was Ghana Airlines that was grounded by the minister. But we still have an airline struggling. But then, I want to say that we are still at the inquiry stage. And what we need is to cooperate and give necessary information that will help the FCCPC and the consumers to know what is happening, rather than continue to want to browbeat everybody to believe we are the only victim. I do not like that victim policy that's being pushed out. That's my position.
All right. So in all of this now, the issues of pricing is one of the major. With Airpeace at the point saying that the airline in 1 hour spends about 500,000 naira. If they have to, if you have to pay for tickets, it has to be like 500,000 naira and above. So what are the factors that determine pricing that many consumers have complained about?
Well, you see, the airline is within its rights, and it's within its operating system to say this is the amount it costs them. That might not be the same amount it's costing other airlines. It might even be higher. But you see, in this case, I would like to take that paragraph again. FCCPC says the inquiry into Airpeace pricing practices stem from allegations on justified fare increases on advanced booking for certain domestic routes, lack of transparency in pricing structures, and practices that potentially contravenes consumer rights and fair competition principles. So they have not said on all routes Airpeace has been very bad with its pricing policy, but on certain routes. On certain routes. And Airpeace was picked from that certain routes. It was only Airpeace that was reported. So, and that's what they're going through. On coming back to the pricing policy, we all know that pricing depends on the cost, and we have the fixed cost and the variable cost. And from this fixed and variable, what most airlines do is that the more the frequency, the lower your fixed cost, and the higher your variable cost. Then you're not going to what we're going to use to make some of to get back to get your price, your cost down. Then come to the pricing. Then some will use the dynamic using the season periods to increase fares. Just as we are having during this Christmas period, you heard that some of the fares now are going at minimum of about 300,000 naira. Then you also have what you call, what you have when you want to have the load factor, you use management to balance the number of fares. So like an airline just announced that like selling 80,000 naira. Maybe out of that 40, only 3 or 4 are 80,000 naira. You know, that's kind of. But then again, there's the class segment. Also, business class, economic class, super economy. Different. You can give it different names just to ensure that you encourage some people to fly. You also make some money. So there are different mechanisms, but all this boils down to your cost. Now, if I say the cost that is in place is fair to the airlines, I will be lying. It's not, just like every other sector of the economy. But I don't want this hysteria that the aviation is being victimized, aviation is being singled out, when about 3 companies from the different sectors have all been called out, the major players, based on complaints, and the others are listening, and yet the one for aviation is one that is all over the media.
And given that these airlines, you've also mentioned that they're heavily dependent on Forex, having to do repairs, cost of fueling, cost of operation, and all of that. We've also seen the airline, trying to push back and also question the parameters that were used by the FCCPC in attempting to inquire about exploitative fares and all of that. But what's the implication of this for Airpeace itself as a brand, and also the aviation sector as a whole? Is this perhaps going to put other airlines in check, looking into the fact that we're also in the festive season?
But the beauty of this, in all this, is that if this is going to put all airlines in check, those against what FCCPC is saying, we are all going to benefit if consumers are treated fairly. We are all going to benefit. It's not only those who complain. But you see, to say that Airpeace unfairly targeted is what I do not want to accept. You are a major player, so you expect that more of the complaints will come to you. British Airways was fined over £230 by the British regulator, which is just the counterpart of the FCCPC. Their brand is still there. My airlines are fined all over the world for anti-competition rules. But in this case, they have called for inquiry. I hope just like the B and Virgin obey the inquiry of the NCA, and at the end of the day, the NCA lost. It might be the same thing here. It might be the same thing here. It's not yet over. You try to set up the case, educate. Well, yes, everything is not interfere. They don't know anything about the person. Go and educate them. Why? What I do not want is the representation of the media making us as if this organization is devilish. And this devilish, when we know the importance of this organization in the past, if you know the struggle to get this organization on board, in the beginning, it was only the Consumer Protection Act that was approved. The oligopolists and monopolists did not want that anti-competition part of that body to come up. But after a long battle, in the last government, we were able to put that anti-competition to help consumers and ensure that just get fair deal from organizations that provide services. And in all fairness, they have not only targeted aviation; they've been addressing other sectors of the economy. And like I mentioned earlier on, yes, I've mentioned this other companies, and all those companies also have regulators. GTP is regulated by the CBN.
All right.
But they've been called up.
The aviation industry has been the hardest hit since 2020, the COVID year, when everything went down, the economy wasn't working, no one was going to work. The aviation industry is one of the industries that was the hardest hit. Has the industry recovered so far, and are there measures, or do you think the measures in place to revamp the aviation sector is working?
Well, the industry have not recovered to that pre-COVID era. They would have, but due to the situation we find ourselves, we are not in, like I said, we are not immune from the economy and the indices and crisis within. Just as companies are pulling out, corporate passengers are also losing corporate passengers in the industry, and that's also affect the revenue. So aviation is not alone in this conundrum, and the industry has tried as much as possible to get to their pre-COVID level, and still striving. But I must say, efforts are in place. The NCA is getting revamped. the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, you listened to the MD some days ago, what they are doing to sanitize the airport. And we also, as they're sanitizing the airport, we're also looking at them, how they can improve infrastructure. But the bidder is made. When you have 22 airports and only 3 are viable, there's something wrong with the system. So it's not about funding alone. Now, we also have to look at the regulator. We have to look at the ministry itself, that we need to pick some of the policies in place to ensure that we bring flights to those other airports, and the passengers can fly from those other airports, use them, and as they use them, they're bringing more revenue to the agencies themselves. As they're bringing more revenue, there are more flights, which improves expertise of professionals within the industry, and also help in bringing down fares. But how can we do this? We have asked that they should look at that policy of putting that age limit on aircraft that is being brought to Nigeria, so that could bring those smaller aircraft, which are not manufactured brand new anymore, can be brought in to be used on these other airports. People don't have to keep traveling from Owerri to Enugu to catch a flight to Abuja, or travel from Abakaliki to Enugu. When these people have airports, people can use those airports to fly people to the nearest city, and that's what we're looking at.
All right, so looking at the FCCPC's investigation vis-a-vis the issues that the minister has raised, slamming the FCCPC for carrying out investigation without recourse to the NCAA. What do you, as the minister has spoken at this point, do you think that the FCCPC, or what should the FCCPC do at this point? Since the minister has already spoken against the investigations, the ongoing investigations, what steps should the FCCPC take in addressing the issues that was brought before it?
Well, the minister is a lawyer. The FCCPC chairman is also a lawyer. The vice chairman is also a lawyer. Now, the laws are there. If the laws permit them to deal with other sectors, irrespective of their regulator, why should aviation be different? I just need to be convinced about that. Why should aviation be different? If they could deal with other sectors, and if consumers and Nigerians, and they're supposed to protect Nigerian consumers, why would aviation be different? I think there should be better communication between all parties rather than come out to that castigating each other. And I don't think the minister should have come out with that statement. I feel he should have taken some time to liaise with the NC and FCCPC and the airpeace. If the minister sees it this way, you then wonder why did he interfere with that by gunning Dandana with that because of NCA? Why was Eric flight that was loaded with passengers and was about heading out of the airport have to come back on threshold to come and park, and that aircraft was grounded because of a debt with the private citizen? All this happened recently. Why are they writing letters to helicopter operators directly and asking them to comply when there are agencies that could have done it? So when we say you don't want reference, you don't want director, then you must reflect also in what we do in the industry. Yes, Nigeria are building structures, but it's time for everybody to respect the rules and laws, and let us see it manifest in all faces of our society. And it must start with you. You who wants it to be right. It must start with you. Essentially, anything that protects the consumer is important to me, because the more the consumers, the more the flyers, everybody benefits from the industry. Right now, the passengers are dwindling. And everything must be done, not by it's not the FCCPC that will bring down the passengers, it's industry players themselves. And it's the industry players that must work with the government to ensure that some of the things that are stifling the industry have been worked on to get airlines back in place, to get more aircraft in, and to get more passengers to fly us. But then you cannot reverse, you cannot ask passengers not to complain. And you cannot ask the FCCPC not to look at passengers' complaints.
Beyond the exploitation of passengers and some of the major issues that you've also mentioned in the aviation sector, in a move to address this, last week the Minister of Aviation announced new measures to handle the menace of harassment of travelers and also the unnecessary delays that we see at the terminals. And he also mentioned that there is also plans for privatization and also concessions of these airports. Perhaps this is a step in the right direction, but we'll wait to see the outcome of that move. This is a fine place to leave the conversation this morning. General Secretary, Aviation Roundtable, Olumide Nwayo. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you for having me. Good morning once
Good
again.
morning.